So I'm not, calling for vindictiveness or anything like that. However, I do think it's worth knowing the people who supported you, who have supported you over the last 3 years, and the people who have attacked you. Who would you say your biggest supporters have been, and who have your biggest detractors been? Because everyone else should probably know that.
My biggest supporters have been Christians. Those have been my biggest supporters, and mostly a lot of people on the conservative side of things, the constitutionalist, people who believe in the rule of law. My biggest critics have been really people who don't really have like a sense of what's going on. They'll be like reporters from left-leaning news companies. Those have been my biggest critics, and people have read that.
Liberal reporters have been your biggest critics.
I would say so. And then what they write goes into other people's heads, which I would say most of America is independent, slightly left-leaning, slightly right-leaning.
Right.
That's most of America.
I think that's right.
Everyday people.
Yeah.
And they believe in the Constitution, and they just want to see a good country.
Yes.
But then you have left-leaning reporters who villainize me and say all these false things to where everyday people sometimes believe that.
Yes. Who do you think long-term has been worse for the country, Antifa or liberal reporters?
Liberal reporters.
Yeah.
Liberal reporters essentially encouraged Antifa and enabled them to a sense. We saw CNN, the one reporter said mostly peaceful but fiery protest. What is a mostly peaceful but fiery protest? That's not a peaceful protest.
No.
That's mass arson.
Yes. And that's obviously a lie, but then it's not an ordinary lie. It's a lie that abets evil, that allows evil things to happen, violence to happen.
Absolutely.
Kind of tells you a lot. So since you're one of the only people in this whole country who fought back against Antifa very effectively, are you worried about your safety?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There are times where I don't want to leave my apartment because I'm like, I have stalkers. I have people who harass me. I get constant death threats on social media. And I'm scared, like, hey, what if one of these death threats are legit? What if this person is going to try to kill me? I had somebody follow me with a drone. I had somebody show up at my apartment. And it's just scary to think, like, hey, these are people that want to kill me.
Someone followed you with a drone?
Yes. There's a very interesting thing. I got a message. I saw a drone, and it was following me at the dog park with my dog. And I look up. I took a picture of it. I'll show you after. And I was like, wow, this is weird. We're not really supposed to have drones in this area. And then I got a text 2 days later from somebody on Twitter say, I'm coming for you. I'm going to kill you. Do you see any drones flying over your apartment lately or your house? And I was just like, okay.
So what did you do with that?
I alerted the authorities, and I can't comment much on that, but they are looking into this stuff.
Big picture, do you feel like the authorities, law enforcement, has been sympathetic to you and trying to keep you from being killed?
I think so.
You don't sound too certain.
I think they've been helpful to an extent, as much as they're able to, because a lot of these people are very hard to track down.
Yes.
And with it being active, I can't comment on it much.
It's interesting. You're the second person. We just interviewed Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they've been trying to kill her at her house, kill her by swatting her for years. And she did not sound confident that law enforcement was doing its best to protect her.
I see that a lot with a lot of politicians and public figures. Is I think sometimes law enforcement may be scared, like, oh, if we protect them, we're going to get scrutinized. They're going to sue us, or they're going to pull our funding, or they're going to label us far right.
Yes.
And we're just going to have riots and protests in our area, and I don't think they want that.
Have any politicians come out? Tell us who they are, who have come out to support you by name.
Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been very supportive of me. Congressman Massey has been very supportive. There was a lot of politicians who wouldn't support me until after the trial. They would wait until a verdict was read. I'm not going to list those politicians' names because I'm still pretty good friends with them and I still talk to them.
Yes.
But there were definitely people who wanted to wait until a verdict out of political pressure that they'll lose voters or constituents if they come out strong support of me.
But the two you can name who watched the video, and again, anyone who hasn't ought to, because it's very obvious what happened. It's the video record, shot from a lot of different angles by a bunch of different people, so it's not, it's not fake. But the two you can name who supported you from the beginning were Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That's correct.
I mean, there are 435 of them, but only two.
Only two that I can name off the top of my head.
Since you're one of the very few people who's actually seen what this kind of violence looks like, and they tried to murder you, are you concerned that we're coming in for more of this?
I can definitely see in the future that more of this will play out, more of this will happen, especially if the politicians who are running this country are still in office and they continue to enable it and they continue to encourage violence, encourage rioting. I could definitely see more riots and more violence in the future.
Have you had any contact with Antifa since that day?
Outside of my trial and once in Denver, Colorado, no.
Do you find it weird that there's a group with a name and, a presence on social media, Antifa, however we're pronouncing it, and they're a militia, they're an organized group, far bigger than the Proud Boys or whatever kind of fake threat they're telling us exists. Those guys are all in jail. But there's this group, and no one's done anything to find out who they are, where's the money coming from, no one's been indicted, they're just free to kind of hurt people and wreck our cities. Is that weird to you?
It's very weird, and I don't think it would be very difficult to track them down. Look where the finances are going. Look who's donating to these things.
Right.
I mean, they do tax audits all the time.
But why aren't they a designated terror organization? Because unlike the Proud Boys, the January 6th prisoners, they actually killed a bunch of people and
got away with
destroyed a bunch of cities. So it wouldn't be too hard to spend some time finding out who they are, but we've spent none that I know of. Do you know differently?
I think I've seen maybe a handful of them get arrested, and they've been in conservative-run states like Texas or Florida. But other than that, I haven't seen any of them arrested for the January 6th because, believe it or not, there was Antifa January 6th.
I'm aware.
New York, haven't seen any of those. New York, you only see conservatives essentially being arrested for defending themselves. You see Daniel Penny, for instance, who was protecting the subway, and you see malicious prosecutions, but you don't see justified prosecutions of people who are burning these cities.
Yeah. It's all distressing. I do think that looking back when, people's brains clear, and hopefully it won't be too late at that point, what happened to you, your response to what happened to you, your trial, the aftermath, all of it will be seen as a really significant moment in American history. And I just hope that you're able to live a life fully in this country despite what happened.
Younger people say the news is full of lies.
In Kennedy's motorcade.
239 people. Cell death of Jeffrey Epstein.